What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to Pure Evil MMA. I'm your host, Evil Eddie, like I am here all the time. Make sure you guys subscribe down below. The new podcast will be up today on iTunes if you want to catch it out early, right here on YouTube, and also be coming out with the next episode probably tomorrow night, I want to say. But last night, man, I was blown away after watching that season of Ultimate Fighter. I was Team Cejudo, I'm not going to lie. I'm not surprised that after just 3 rounds, the decision went to Benavidez there, especially with the point being taken away from Cejudo. So we're going to be breaking into that in a second. Tim Elliott blowing my mind last night after that first round, man. Whew. We're going to be getting into that as well. Also, we're going to be talking about UFC 206. That's coming up next. Kind of being shadowed by everything else, especially with the injury of DC, and then they have the interim title, Conor McGregor being stripped from the belt. We talked about it all this week on the podcast. And we're going to talk about it a little bit here too. So hope you guys got your morning coffee with you and you're ready to talk some fights. I got the open chat room open. I'll be able to see it finally today. And if you guys have any questions, anything that you want to ask me, live Q&A. So make sure you get into that. Ronda Rousey, we'll briefly brush on that as well. But thanks for tuning in. Subscribe down below. I do a live show every Wednesday night with Ted Check. As you can see, the little cartoon character right there. Follow us on Facebook. Facebook.com/PureEvilMMA. Same thing for Twitter, guys. Pure Evil MMA. Just like that. Simple as that. No more evil _echo unless you want to find me at my personal page. And also, last thing, on Snapchat as well, guys. Just search Evil Eddie and you'll find me. First fight I want to talk about that was on the Ultimate Fighter Season 24 was Jamie Moyle making her debut last night. I had my little cousins, my sister, sit down to watch their first fight last night, and it was Jamie. And she went in there putting pressure on the entire time. Her opponent was doing as well too, Karan, but all 3 rounds I had scored for Jamie. She even got cut open on, I think it was her right eye, I believe. She had a huge hematoma growing there, and she posted a couple of pictures on her Facebook page following the fight, so definitely go check that out on her Facebook. Exciting new era of WMMA coming into this the roundup this year of 2016, and I don't know where Ronda is right now. We didn't see her fight all year since her last fight against Holly Holm, and she's going to be fighting at UFC 207 to wrap up our year, and I can't wait for that. I hope you guys are excited for that as well. Also on this card, after Jamie Moyle won in 3-round dominant fight, Kim O'Reilly, that was a good fight. Banter versus Schnell. Schnell gets knocked out in the first round, and he took this fight on short notice, so I'm not that surprised that it ended quick. I actually had it going as a quick TKO, most likely for Font to win that, but Schnell, man, thanks for stepping up. He's a champion from another organization. We all got to watch him on this season of TUF. One of my picks, I thought he would get a little further. Well, he actually did get pretty far. I think he got to the semifinals. But Tim Elliott just took the entire season by storm. Especially, they kind of ruined it on Reddit for everybody. One Speed MMA was talking about it on their podcast last month as well. I was like, man, Tim Elliott, he could be the winner. I would not be surprised if that's the case. He was in the UFC not too long ago. So out of all these guys here, with experience, and he says that he doesn't care about the money, or he doesn't care about making it into the UFC because he's already been there before. You can just see like the veteran standpoint in his head. So I think that had a lot to do with it being in that house for that long, and we're gonna be talking about it in a second. Gray Maynard versus Hall. I was so excited waiting for waiting for Ryan Hall to come and fight. He won that season Ultimate Fighter against Artem Lobov, where he kind of jumped on his back. He was just like beating him like a spider monkey. But all the time, guys, he's always going for that 50-50 jiu-jitsu. All of his opponents got to expect it. And if he gets you, man, it's all over. We saw how that went. And he's actually well known in the MMA community, in the jiu-jitsu community as well. We knew that he was going to be in the UFC. And to beat somebody like Gray Maynard, man, Gray Maynard is on the other side of his career. It's almost like a changing of the guard. I know a lot of people use that term a lot here, but it's true. You saw it last night. A striker like Gray Maynard going in there, trying to take out the Brazilian jiu-jitsu of somebody like Ryan Hall. We saw the struggle that Artem has. And I know a lot of you guys think that Artem's a 500 swinger, but if you look at his record in the past, you see that he faced some pretty tough guys at the beginning of his career, never trying to take an easy fight. He's always trying to improve. So Artem Lobov, even though he got a record of like 12-10 or something like that, he's a tough dude, and I actually really thought Ryan Hall was the underdog in that fight. And I didn't know what to expect here with Gray Maynard. I mean, we've seen a different kind of Gray the last couple of years, and we see Frankie Edgar and Gray Maynard at 2 different ends of their career when, last last time they stood toe to toe together, and it's just a wild ride. I want to know who you guys think Ryan Hall should fight next. That was a good debut. That was his first debut since he won that season Ultimate Fighter, and he's been doing a lot. I mean, it was almost a year now since Ultimate Fighter Season 22. I think that was in was it July? It was right when Aldo, right before they fought Aldo. So May, June, July or August. So Ryan Hall coming in it, taking out somebody like Gray Maynard. I don't know what's next for this guy. You know, you get taken out with somebody like Ryan Hall making his UFC debut. And that's got to be tough on a veteran fighter like Gray Maynard. I don't know what is going to happen. I hope the UFC doesn't let him go, because Gray can definitely, you know, stand in there and bang with some of the best still. But last night just didn't go his way. He was getting very frustrated at Ryan Hall as well, because as soon as he would just drop right away, trying to go for that 50-50 the entire fight, and Gray just had no answer for it. I thought that he would have a different game plan coming to the second round. Nothing was able to change. Ryan Hall is just great defense, and he scares guys in there, because nobody wants that 50-50 heel hook or anything like that. So McMahon getting the win. Jake Ellenberger, that was a very weird fight. Everybody on social media was talking about that all last night and all today. If you haven't heard about it, it was very weird, because somebody like Jake Ellenberger, who really needed this fight, his last fight, he actually begged Dana White not give him that pink slip. And he went in there, they're like, all right, well, if you really want to stay, you're going to have to beat Matt Brown. And he went in there and he beat Matt Brown. But it was still almost the same position. Jake still got his back up against the wall. I'm always a big fan of Jake. You guys are too. I know a lot of people don't talk much trash about Jake, but last night was a very weird circumstance. I don't know how the UFC or anybody's really looking at this, because he was going forward and he got his foot stuck as he was lunging forward into the cage. And you can clearly see that his foot was stuck, and the ref, I think it was Herb Dean, he like broke him. Well, first Masvidal started punching him, even though he was like holding his foot. Ellenberger was holding his foot, and then Masvidal saw that. I was like, dude, nobody's getting in between this. He went in there, started laying on some hands, and Ellenberger got split up by Herb Dean. And it looked like Herb Dean was trying to call a timeout, but it was a TKO. A lot of controversy here. Not the kind of position you want to be in, like Jake Ellenberger, if it could be the last fight of your career. Not how you want that to go. That is just bad luck. I don't know if you can blame the ref, because that was a very tough call to make. If you guys are just tuning in, make sure you guys follow me on Snapchat at Evil Eddie. Follow me on Twitter at Pure Evil MMA. Let me just make a quick snap, invite everybody over. Make sure you guys subscribe down below, Pure Evil MMA. I'm your host, Evil Eddie. Like always, the podcast is up on Apple iTunes. Make sure you guys check that out. We go live every Wednesday night with Ted Check, the infamous Ted Check. So not only that, guys, Ellenberger is in a really tough position, yeah. But moving on, Joseph Benavidez versus Cejudo. I really wish these guys had 5 rounds to play with. Both these guys, number 1 and 2 contenders in this division, had to train all these fighters on Ultimate Fighter to fight against Mighty Mouse, who these guys are trying to fight. So if Tim won last night, that would be their next opponent. However, that wasn't the case. Benavidez did a great job. Cejudo did a great job. It was a 50-50 way, and might have said it could have went either way, but that 1 point that was taken away from Cejudo was huge, and that definitely put a dent in it. Benavidez, a lot of people expected to win this fight. Cejudo was the underdog without a doubt. But he was standing there and trading with him the entire time. He actually landed some nice shots on Benavidez. I thought Cejudo did a better job than Benavidez did. Not the sharpest Joseph Benavidez like we've seen. Not what I was expecting from him. Very weird fight. And again, it's a fight that you need 5 rounds. You can't just go 3 rounds. Both these guys, it could have been a completely different game card if it was 5 rounds. What do you guys think about this? What's next for these guys? You can't really put Joseph Benavidez in there against Mighty Mouse again. They've already fought how many times? Cejudo just lost to Mighty Mouse, and he just lost to Benavidez, so I don't know where that puts him. There's a lot of guys in that division I would like to see Cejudo fight, because he is a great fighter. And that fight last night, like I said, he's a main event fighter on an FS1 card. If you get him in his next fight against anybody there, I'm sure he'll win it. So that'll put him right back on track, I'd hope. But it's a tough position because the number 1 contender, Joseph Benavidez, and the champion lost to. So it's kind of like you gotta wait for it to move on, so to say. You got to wait for Mighty Mouse to get out of there. And I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. He's about to make history. Very weird fight. What do you guys think is next for Benavidez? What do you think is next for Cejudo? Make sure you guys let me know on our Twitter page at Pure Evil MMA. If you don't have Twitter, that's fine. You can find us on Facebook as well. And then we got into our main event, guys. Mighty Mouse going up against Tim Elliott. And like I said at the beginning of the stream, the rumor was that Tim Elliott was going to be the winner of this season, that it was already leaked. And I actually had Jose Shorty Torres on the show not too long ago. And he actually said that he was flying out to train with Joseph Benavidez because he was supposed to fight this weekend as well at Titan FC 42. However, his opponent, Nobre, got injured. They had to reschedule a fight, so that got postponed. But either way, Jose Shorty Torres was flying out with Joseph Benavidez to train and Tim Elliott, which told me that, all right, Tim is still with Joseph, so obviously he's still training to fight Mighty Mouse, and that season's over. Even though it's still on TV, you guys watch it on TV, that season was over the second it started. There was some time. Mighty Mouse knew who his opponent was. This wasn't on 3 days. He didn't find out on Wednesday. I hope you guys don't think that. I know our MMA fans don't think that, but if you were following along, this was your first season of Ultimate Fighter. It was a very weird season. This is not a normal season, what you would usually do. Usually you have guys, with like 3 professional fights. I think you have to have 2, 3, or 4 professional fights. And they'll pick a division, or they'll pick a weight class. Usually it'll be like 1, 2, or 3 weight classes. All right, welterweight, this, bantamweight. And then they'll decide, like, all right, this season's going to be bantamweight season. But this season, it was all champions from all divisions. Titan FC, all over the world. We had Judo, Titan FC, I think Shamrock FC, if I'm right. TFFC. All the divisions. Except for Bellator. I don't think they had a Bellator, obviously. So DJ going in there that first round, it was looking very, very, very scared. I was not expecting that. DJ was getting rocked by Tim Elliott, who was just pushing forward. This is what we thought coming into this fight. That Tim Elliott was just going to keep forward. He has a very weird stance. Not your normal fighter. He has a very similar style to Justin Gaethje, the champion for World Series of Fighting, who's going to be fighting New Year's Eve at Madison Square Garden Theater. DJ redesigned his whole game plan going into the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Just had it in a sweep. He had dominant control on the top throughout this entire fight. But Tim Elliott, man, if he was really trying to stink in that choke, I think that he really screwed up that first round by going all out, trying to put on a really good show. He did put on a great show, but he got dominated 4th, 5th, 3rd, 4th, 5th round. I mean, the second round he was doing good coming in there, but DJ, as soon as he got him down, there was nothing that Tim could do. His ground game was just on a different level. So Mighty Mouse is just the perfect fighter, well-rounded. And I don't know what's next for him. Now he's going to be breaking records. And he says that he's not trying to get that into his head, not trying to psych himself out. I was very nervous in that first round, though. I thought that DJ was going to tap out. It just shows, how long he's been in the game. He stayed calm, relaxed, slowed his breathing down, didn't panic. He was able to get out. But, man, I really thought that Tim had him there. And we saw it throughout the whole season of Ultimate Fighter. Tim's first 2 fights in there, he was choking dudes out in that first round. And that was tight. And it was tight for maybe over a minute. So DJ got that big head. So it was just locked in there. And Tim was really aiming for that. That was his game plan. Going in that 5th round, he started getting wild. And I wish he started doing that in the 4th round, too, because he didn't have much of a chance going in that 4th or 5th round if he didn't do something crazy. He was going all out. Like I said, I wish he did something earlier, but it wasn't the case. He is now going to be fighting in the UFC. This is going to be a 2nd run. That's not even the question here. That division's full of guys for Tim to fight and hopefully turn his UFC career around. We wish the best. That was a very exciting fight. He did better than Cejudo did. He did better than Benavidez did at one point. He won all 5 rounds with the champion, coming off this season of Ultimate Fighter. It was a great show, great publicity for Mighty Mouse. That's another thing that people were like, I don't know if they should be doing this because Mighty Mouse, look at his pay-per-view numbers, doesn't get people to tune in. Well, if we look at the numbers last night, you'd see a lot of newcomers coming in. I know a lot of the people that have been following MMA for a while usually don't tune into the UFC all that much, or the Ultimate Fighter all that much because we watched how many seasons now? So some of us kind of fell off that bandwagon a while ago. And this is another part of the conversation. What's next for Ultimate Fighter? Usually by this time, you'd find out who's the coaches for next season, if not the season after. And we have no idea right now. There are rumors that it's going to be some big names on it, though. That's all Dana White has come out to say. I don't know what's going to be happening. I don't know what's going to be next. Is it going to be Cyborg next? I threw out the idea of, could it possibly be CM Punk and NFL, NBA, all these people we've been seeing this year that think they can be a fighter. Are they going to be doing So You Think You Can Fight season? That would be pretty entertaining, maybe. If they could pull it off if they had some pretty big names in there. NFL, boxing if you want. We've seen all this happen in the past. We've seen how that plays out. But the question is, once they get to the end, I mean, you're going to throw these guys in there with UFC fighters. Not going to work out well. Not going to work out well. But I was having the same conversation with Ted Check. And answer this question if you guys know this, because Matt Mitrione was coming on that season Ultimate Fighter from the NFL. I don't think he had many, if any, professional fights or amateur fights. Brendan Schaub, Big Brown, I don't think he had any professional fights behind him. Kimbo Slice, of course, we watched for years, but I don't think he had any professional fights behind him. We can name Roy Nelson. He's had a shit ton of fights before that, and you could see that the second that he stepped in there with Kimbo. But I'm pretty sure that those guys didn't have professional fights going in that season of Ultimate Fighter, and they did pretty well for themselves. Matt Mitrione did a great job. Brendan Schaub did a great job. All these guys did a great job on their career in the Ultimate Fighter. So if you get guys from the NFL, NBA that really, they're athletes, I'd rather see these guys in there fighting over CM Punk. They had CM Punk go in there, and he's an actor. I mean, he's an athlete to some extent. I don't want to, throw that under there because, wrestling, they are getting good workouts. They are training with the similar people, but you got to have ground game. You got to know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You got to know boxing. Getting a letter from my girlfriend, so. What? I don't know. Yeah, I guess. Got to bring the old lady to work. So that was the talk. Is there going to be NBA, NFL? Are they going to do something like that? Or are they going to do a season of Chris Cyborg, bringing that 145-pound division? I think if anyone deserves it, it's Chris Cyborg. They built a whole division around Ronda. That worked out great. We're always excited when we see females going in there and fight. It's usually one of the best fights of the night. We saw it last night. Jamie Moyle going in there. Great fight. He came off a season of Ultimate Fighter. You can build a division around 145. Chris Cyborg, you got as a champion. She sells fights. We saw that. We know this. And she's still fighting for Invicta Championship. Why isn't she the champion over here yet? Give her some real opponents. You brought in, what was her name? Her last opponent. Not Leslie Smith. Her last opponent was a Muay Thai fighter. A Muay Thai champion. Lena Landsberg. That's right. Lena Landsberg going in there. Give this girl some real opponents. The big talk is about Ronda, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. We're going to have to wait and see what Ronda is next. What happens with Ronda next? We're going to be talking about that in a second. What do you guys think is going to be the next season of Ultimate Fighter? Make sure you let us know on Twitter at Pure Evil MMA, on Facebook at Pure Evil MMA. All right, really quick, I just want to talk about this for a brief second. It's been a lot of talk in the past 3 weeks. Habib Nurmagomedov, what is next for him? What is next for Habib? Because now Conor McGregor is no longer the featherweight champion. He's now the lightweight champion. Who's next? Habib and Tony. We said this in the last couple episodes of Pure Evil MMA on iTunes, podbean.com. Those two have to fight. There has to be no doubt of who's the number one contender, who's going to be fighting Conor McGregor. That's a big fight. That's a money fight. UFC is going to be pouring a lot into this. I don't know what's next for Conor, but those guys don't need to worry about what Conor's up to. They need to worry about sealing their spot as the actual number one contender. Now, after Tony Ferguson beat RDA, he was put as the number one contender above Habib. Then Habib went in there at UFC 205. We talked about this. He was able to put on a great performance against Michael Johnson. Then he would be the number one contender over Tony, who just beat RDA in a 5-round slobber knocker, as Joe Rogan would say. After UFC 205, was that dominant performance enough to seal Habib as number one contender? I think so. The dude's undefeated. Yeah, Tony has a 9-fight 9 fight win streak right now, but Khabib's never lost in his life. Ariel's a big advocate for this. He's never lost in his life. He did have a 2-year layoff. The fight against RDA was a while back. His returning fight was against a debut fighter, Daryl Horcher. But we saw him go in there against Michael Johnson, who just knocked out Dustin the Diamond in that opening round. We saw that Michael Johnson is without a doubt a great contender in the UFC, and Khabib dominated him after that first round. First round, Michael Johnson, you guys know Michael Johnson was going in there, had a great stand-up. I think Khabib was trying to prove something that, not only is he good on the ground, but he's good on striking. He wasn't really matching MJ there. They brought him to the ground, dominated him there. We know that Khabib's great on the ground. He's the number one contender right now in the UFC, beating out Tony Ferguson. But there has to be no doubt. The argument is, no, Tony's the number one. No, Khabib. There has to be no doubt. Who is next to fight Conor McGregor? These two have to fight. There's going to be a little time. Conor said that his girlfriend's pregnant. We don't know what he's doing right now with the boxing thing. Let these two fight. Keep them fresh. Keep them going. Build the story up more. Get your promo shots. Do what you got to do to build this fight up. Khabib, you can put so much behind him. If you look at Said Show MMA's latest video on Khabib, that thing got me. The highlight video, if you look back at some of Khabib's, what has he got? 24. He's 24-0 or something like that. If you look back at all those fights, man, highlight reel after highlight reel, you could build something big off him. Tony Ferguson, the real El Kukui. The real El Kukui. You could build something big off of him. You gotta have these two fight. You have to have them go in there. Tony beating RDA, great job. Khabib beating Michael Johnson, great job. Well, now we're gonna see who's the real number one contender. That's what you do. As far as Conor, let's break into this really quick. Conor just got his boxing license. People are like, well, if he wants to fight Floyd, he's getting the box license the wrong place. We do know that he only likes to fight in Nevada. So I don't know what's going on. But Conor did get his boxing license, so there is some talk. That's the money fight. That's the money fight for Conor. That's what's next for Conor. Conor wasn't getting motivated to go and fight Jose Aldo. He already been there, done that, knocked him out in 13 seconds. He's having trouble getting motivated for that fight. You're Conor McGregor, and I know a lot of people don't like this because he hasn't defended the titles, but he keeps moving forward. There's no time to even look back to defend. He keeps moving forward. It's not like he just wins and he sits on the side like, oh, I'm champion. No, he's going in there. He's making fights. He's making two-division champion. We all know who the real champion is of the featherweight division. He knocked Jose out in 13 seconds, which is sad because I do want to see the Jose Aldo fight. I do. I do want to see that rematch. They put a lot of promotion in that, a lot of hype behind that. Jose Aldo, dominant champion for 10 years, the only featherweight champion UFC has ever had. And then you have Conor come in. UFC is like in love with him, giving him all this money because he's doing what he's saying he's going to do. Bringing new fans into the MMA. The MMA. The MMA AA. So that is a fight that we do want to see. But now Jose Aldo saying, I'll chase Conor McGregor right up to the 155 division. I do think that Conor is going to be obviously fighting Floyd Mayweather next. There was talk, Colin Show, Dana was going on Colin Show all the time on FS1 talking about it. He was even saying, get your tickets now. You heard it here, which was a crock of ass at the time because we knew that Conor needed to go back in there and beat Nate and then defend his title or move up and get the next belt. Well, now he's done all that. Now D. Devlin's pregnant. And now we're seeing that happen. There's no doubting it. Funniest part right now, though, is people are still doubting Conor McGregor. A lot of my Twitter followers, MMA family, we all laugh about it. There's people out there that still doubt Conor McGregor. That just want to see this dude fail for some reason. And I don't understand that at all. But let me know what you guys think is next for Conor McGregor on Twitter. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Pure Evil MMA. I'm just having a quick Sunday afternoon MMA banter. There's an open chat room if you guys want to chat. Let's break into Ronda Rousey. Oh, you know what? Let's talk about UFC 206 really quick. Where I got to bring Andrea to work. Gabs. UFC 206 been foreshadowed. And this kind of breaks into the talk that we've just been having about Conor and the belts and the division right there. Because what happened this week? DC gets injured. And they punish Conor McGregor by stripping him so they can sell this pay-per-view at UFC 206, which I guarantee isn't going to do the best in numbers. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer right now, but I really don't think they're going to sell that many pay-per-views there. It's a lot of money to be spending on interim to watch somebody win an interim title. That really stands for nothing. If the UFC really wanted to sell this and they really cared about these titles, then they would have done it the correct way. They would have stripped Conor the correct way and had press conference and talked to Aldo, and there's a lot they should have done here. They put it in a 30-second sweeper. I broke this all down on this week's Pure Evil MMA podcast up on Apple iTunes, Pure Evil MMA, and on Podbean.com. And it just pisses me off because they should have done this the correct way. If they want people to take these belts seriously and not think they're just whatever and they just want these money fights, every time there's a title fight, it should be a money fight. All the publicity should go towards that. But they're not treating them the right way. And now you want me to believe that this is an interim fight, that these two are fighting for the championship when you just stripped Conor McGregor to give Jose Aldo, who just lost in 13 seconds. Well, he did beat Frankie Edgar to become the interim champion. So all right, if you guys are a little lost here, let me just fully break this down. If you have no idea what I'm talking about. EC gets injured. He was the main event for UFC 206. He hasn't defended his title in almost a year now. But at UFC 200 against Anderson Silva, but he hasn't defended his title in almost at the same time that Conor has. They go, oh shit, well, we have no main event for UFC 206. Our co-main event right now currently is Max Holloway versus Showtime Pettis. Let's make that the interim title shot. We'll give Jose Aldo Conor's belt to make him champion, and then we'll unify the belts. I don't think you're kidding anybody here. I don't think it's going to do anything for the numbers. I think it was a little too soon to be stripping Conor McGregor. But now we have Max Holloway versus Showtime Pettis, UFC 206 headline. It's going to be an interesting fight. Showtime Pettis only had one fight so far at featherweight this year. His debut, he did a great job submitting Carlos Cowboy Oliveira off of his back. And I think we're going to see, Max Holloway is a little grinder in there. He goes in there, he loves striking, he's a well-rounded fighter. But Showtime Pettis, he's got the height and the reach, the flashy fighter. I doubt that Max Holloway is going to be wrestling him a lot. I think that Showtime might be strong. It all matters how this weight cut's going to go. Really. I mean, I don't make my predictions till I see the weigh-ins. And even then sometimes, when you watch the fighters walk out, you tell like something's off. Now you got this fight. I'm rooting for Showtime Pettis to win this. But it's not. You're not kidding anybody. You're not kidding anybody. So you're telling me that the winner of this is going to fight Jose Aldo for the title. Jose Aldo wants to fight Conor McGregor. That was where your story was at. That was where you were selling us at. Let's not get off track. You guys are screwing this all up, and I don't think it's the right way. And a lot of people are blaming the new ownership for this. You can't blame Dana White. All you guys out there, Dana White's right on the front lines. He gets a lot of trash for all the decisions UFC makes. But this week, they laid off Chuck Liddell. You know that Dana wasn't behind any of that. Those two are real good friends. That's right. They laid off Chuck Liddell from the UFC. He was helping out behind the scenes he was in charge of something behind the scenes. He was actually just on the season Ultimate Fighter, coaching Ultimate Fighter LA with Forrest Griffin. But when you see guys like that go in place of others, that we've followed the story of Chuck Liddell this whole time. We want him to be in the circle. Even though he's retired, we still want him in the circle. He's a great person for these fighters to talk with. He knows what's going on in the world of MMA. He knows what goes on behind the scenes. He's used to it. Why are you firing someone with that much experience? With so many people love Chuck Liddell. It shows me that we knew stuff like this was going to happen. That's the thing. We knew this was going to happen with the new owners, and we know that they're involved with Hollywood and Conan O'Brien, all these big Ben Affleck and all these stars and stuff like that. And it's not the direction that a lot of people are happy with. And this week there was talk with the MMA AA, Tim Kennedy, GSP, TJ Dillashaw, Cain Velasquez, Bjorn. And fighters are really standing up because no one's being treated right in the UFC. I mean, in MMA in general, but there's been a bunch of no-nos that we've been like, not right. That just doesn't seem right. And finally the fighters standing up for it. But here, it pisses me off to see somebody like Chuck Liddell being cut from the UFC. It just really pisses me off. Anyways, UFC 206 and all of this. Let me know what you guys think about this. There's some good fights, and we're gonna be breaking that down this week on Pure Evil MMA. So make sure you guys subscribe down below. Last thing we're gonna brush up on, guys, real quick before I end the UFC afternoon banter. Ronda Rousey is gonna be making a return soon to end the year against Amanda Nunes, and it's gonna be one hell of a fight. Amanda has been great with her striking lately, but Ronda, this is a big what if for Ronda, because if she goes in there after her whole career in the UFC undefeated, she loses against Holly Holm, who looked perfect. Out of all of her fights in the UFC, she looked better than ever in that one. And she gave it to Ronda. And a highlight reel that will go down in history, one of the biggest upsets in MMA history. One of the biggest, not the, but one of the biggest upsets. But she's been having a rough time lately. She lost to Misha. She lost the belt to Misha. She lost to Valentina. Well, the real question is, what's next for Ronda? We all wanted to see her fight Holly when she came back, but we can't do that. I know a lot of people might be mad about that, but you can't do that. Holly just lost 2 fights. What? You can't do that. So now Ronda gets the immediate title match against Amanda Nunes, who's been doing amazing striking. Beat Misha Tate at UFC 200, but there was something off about Misha that night. So it's hard for me to judge that performance. And that was the only time she fought since she's got the belt. Well, she won the belt that night, Amanda. So we haven't seen her fight since then, which was just in July. But you're going against somebody like Ronda Rousey, who is one of the best, who's been selling pay-per-views because this girl finishes people in 30 seconds, up to a minute. If you go into the second round with Ronda Rousey, you're in uncharted water. This is a big what if for Ronda. Is she going to still have that edge? We didn't see it with Anderson Silva after he lost to Chris Weidman. There was something different. Is there going to be something different about Ronda? We're going to see. We're going to find out. I'm rooting for her, though. I think Ronda's going to win this without a doubt. I think it's going to be a good fight, but I think it's going to go into the second round and Ronda's going to win. I'm even giving it that. I think it might end before then. And I know a lot of you guys might be pissed at me for saying that. I know a lot of you guys out there don't like Ronda, but you cannot deny her skills. You can't doubt what she's done in the UFC, in MMA. There's a reason why Ronda's the biggest star. There's a reason why Ronda was champion. There's a reason why Ronda was taking out these girls in 30 seconds. It's not like she's taking out cans, guys. They built this whole division around Ronda. If she beats Amanda Nunes, I would like to see her maybe fight Holly Holm, if not Cyborg. Is that going to happen? I don't know. But it's something I would like to see. But it's a big what if. That's the thing here. It's a big what if. Let me know what you guys think on Twitter at Pure Evil MMA. Thanks for tuning in with me. I will be back this week. Make sure you guys check out the podcast up on Apple iTunes. All you got to do is search Pure Evil MMA. Find me on Twitter at Pure Evil MMA. Facebook at Pure Evil MMA. You can follow me on Instagram at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. Make sure you guys tune in every Wednesday night. Me and Ted Check go live every Wednesday night. Talk about the latest news in MMA and also on the podcast as well. You guys do not want to miss out on that. I'm Evil Eddie from Pure Evil MMA. Behave yourselves, guys, and have a great Sunday. Behave yourselves.